Good day to you this day. I'm doing another video of what am I watching. And I have two different things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a movie that I saw in theaters this past Friday, and then also a TV series that I've been watching a lot of recently. So I'm going to start with the movie. The movie that came out it actually came out on Friday, was the movie Ballerina. Ballerina is a movie that takes place in the world of John Wick. If you're familiar with the John Wick franchise with Keanu Reeves, you'll be familiar with this. And so here it says, taking place during the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Eve Macaro begins her training in the assassin traditions of the Rusca Roma. I need to go back and watch John Wick 3. I haven't seen it for quite a while. But I saw, like I said, I saw this movie on Friday, and I thought it was very, very good. I liked the opening scene. I liked the training, and they kind of highlighted that she's got this weakness where she's kind of prone to get caught from behind, and that kind of plays itself out throughout the film. I like that consistency. I like that they give a strong female character, but at the same time as they let her be a girl, to let her be a woman. I like that. There's that line in there. It says, fight like a girl, is what she's told. And I like that because so often we watch these movies with these girls that can fight super duper awesome, and all of a sudden they're just as strong and powerful as the guys. And that's just, unless you got like superpowers going on here, you can't play that. So I like that she said, she's saying, play to your strengths, and recognize you're a woman. Women have strengths that men do not, and I like that she's encouraged to play into that. They do include, John Wick does have an appearance in it, and I think they do it very well. I think it's a good way to let you know the timing of when all this stuff is going on. And it kind of keeps it connected, but I think they did it just right. They didn't do it in a way that it made John Wick overtake it. They did very well with it. And in the battle that they face off with each other, they do that well. I was really, really worried because I saw in the trailers that they're going to fight each other. And part of me was worried that you're going to see her like beat up on John Wick. And I'm glad they didn't, because it's not so much about the guy versus girl thing. It's that you've established through 4 movies that John Wick is pretty much unbeatable. And all of a sudden he gets beaten. That's going to be problematic for me. You're going to undercut your entire franchise, which you've established at this point. So, but they do at the same time show her holding her own against others. When she does her first mission, they show it being brutal. They show her struggling. Again, I like that. It shows development. It shows growth. It is well written. It's and of course, as you can expect with the John Wick franchise, there's really good fight scenes, action scenes. I love the setting and the final moments of the movie, the final battles, and I thought that was really, really good. I love the snow-covered village, and yeah. Anyways, so great movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think it keeps building on the reality that the John Wick franchise is becoming one of the best franchises in all of cinema. 5 movies, 5 hits. That's impressive. So, all right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, so I'm talking about what I'm watching. So I watched Ballerina, like I said, on Friday, but the TV show that I've been spending a lot of time in is the show MASH. Now, I remember like my parents and grandparents watching MASH. My roommate in college watched it quite a bit. But to be honest, I never really paid attention. And so that reason I don't think I really was familiar enough with it. And so I have a Google TV, and they had a little advertisement for, catch up on MASH, watch MASH, because um, the actress, trying to find, Loretta Swit, had passed away. She plays Major Houlihan, or Hot Lips. And so they were kind of encouraging people to watch through it. And I decided to start watching the series. And as you can see right now, I got 34 episodes already in. Woo, I've watched a lot. And the reason is I love it. It's a really good show. I love the wit of Alan Alda, who plays Pierce, and of course, and Trapper. I love the wit that they have and the way how quickly they respond. I like the characters throughout the series. Up to this point, I got a ways to go yet. But I also like that it's got drama. It's got to have seriousness. It doesn't let you lose track of the setting they're in. It's one of the reasons why I actually think that the opening sequence of MASH is probably one of the best opening sequences in television. I talk about the credit scene, because it starts out with that, suicide is painless. That's the name of the song, but it just uses the instrumentals, and it's actually basically the opening scenes of the first episode, and I think it's so well because you see them goofing off. When you see that first episode, they're playing golf, and they accidentally hit a landmine, and they're kind of they're playing this. There's kind of this music showing that they're kind of relaxing. It's letting you know that there's a comedy, but it just all of a sudden you hear the alarm that and you see the choppers coming in, and that's when they start playing the song, and they're running to get to the choppers to bring people into the hospital and to care for them. And that kind of establishes right off the bat what this series is going to be. And that's why I love that intro. It lets you know the kind of show it is. And throughout the series that I've watched so far, I'm part of the way into season 2. You have these episodes. Some of them are very just straight up comedy, but are very heavy comedy, and some of them are very serious and very heavy. There's some episodes are really tense. Like I was watching an episode where they had to deal with a sniper who was constantly firing on them, and it was kind of amazing how they would occasionally, they'd still insert the humor but still have that tension. And so yeah, I like this show. And one of the things I was kind of thinking about this when I was a few years ago, I remember, I think it was TV Land or something like that. They were doing this ongoing promotion of how MASH and Scrubs would air back to back on their network. And they're kind of comparing how they're similar and everything. And I always thought about that, like, how was, aside from the dramedy element of the series, how are they similar? And I've been thinking about that, and I don't think there's similarities, don't get me wrong, and I think it's been very much because if you're familiar with the creator of Scrubs, which is Bill Lawrence. If you're familiar with Bill Lawrence, he was a big fan of MASH, and there's definitely elements of MASH in it. I mean, I think there's a couple times where JD is called Radar. I kind of noticed that there's this ongoing theme in Scrubs. So ongoing thing in Scrubs where they're found making out in the supply closet, and there's an ongoing theme in MASH of people making out in the supply tent. I think there's one episode, there's a flashback by JD where he talked about his brother, him and his brother playing MASH when he was a kid, and he would always have to play Hot Lips, and he'd have to kiss Frank, who was the dog. Um, so I mean, there's like, and I but with even with that, I mean, it's such a different setting because you're talking about an inner city hospital versus a military hospital during combat in the Korean War, and I think it's really hard to have a perfect parallel. I see similarities between Hawkeye and especially Dr. Cox a little bit. I do actually think that Alan Alda, he actually does look a little similar to an actor who, one of the characters that appears on Scrubs during, I think it's like season 4 or 5. It's this kid that JD has to train, and he does actually kind of have a look similar to Alan Alda does in MASH. But I mean that's about it. But the thing is, I still like, at the heart of it, there's similarities. There's this episode where they're asked to create a film to promote the work that's going on at these MASH units, and there's this really comedic moments in between in the movie. And I think there's a point during a speech where he says we have to talk about why they have these comedic moments. Why do they play pranks on each other? And he kind of alludes to the fact that this is what we have to do to survive. And Scrubs does a very similar route. Is that I think there's a very similar speech that comes from Dr. Cox. Is that we do this to survive because you can't make it given the stuff that you experience. You have to have that humor. So the heart of why you have that humor, that joking, the jovial nature of these doctors is because that's what you would be like in such a life. And so, like I said, it's kind of an interesting trying to compare these two. Maybe as I get farther into MASH and have watched more of the series, I'll give more in depth. But this is just something I wanted to think about, like comparing the two series, because I know at times I've had conversations with people about this, and I wanted to, after one season, I could see Dr. Kelso being a little bit similar to Frank, but it's not the same because Frank is the way he is because he's insecure. As I could see it, he's very insecure about himself. Whereas Dr. Kelso is the way, and it's kind of alluded to many times that Frank is not the best of doctors. But whereas Kelso in Scrubs is not that way. Kelso is the way he is by the nature of being the chief of medicine, dealing with insurance. And that, again, it's tied to why the shows cannot be a perfect one-to-one, because you're in such a different setting. The difference between being in a hospital and being in combat. Being in a city hospital. And Kelso, we actually do get alluded to that he actually is a good doctor. So even that doesn't really work. There's no character parallels. There's just like certain themes. There's allusions to it. And I think that ultimately comes down to is they are not the same series. It's not, I don't think you could really compare them totally, but there are elements that allude to MASH, and that's because of Bill Lawrence's love of the show MASH. And at times it does come through in Scrubs. At some point down the line, I'll probably do some episodes talking about Scrubs. So, anyways, there we go. There's my what I'm watching video. I hope you enjoy it. And probably the next time I do a video, because I'm going to be gone throughout the week, will probably be another what am I watching video. I don't know what that will be in a week, but I hope you have a blessed week. In Jesus' name, amen.